Welcome to my Destiny 2 Lightfall review. For those of you new around here, Destiny is a franchise that has already taken up 8 full years of my life, so needless to say, I am a bit connected with the IP, and honestly the community around it. So after seeing all the talk about the newest expansion, I thought it would make for a great first video of 2023 to come out with a review of it. With all that said, let's get started with the most important part of the expansion for me, the story.
We need to do better!
The story for Lightfall was one of the most hyped things about the expansion, until it was released. You see, we were under the impression that this DLC would be our biggest and best expansion story-wise yet. However, what we got was a dysfunctional, barely strung together story about getting Baja Blast as a subclass and fighting a villain who is such a loser that he wrote a fanfic about being our best friend. Though, I'll be honest, the story starts off strong. You're going after Osiris, trying to help him, since he decided, sure, I don't need my light to stop an entire Cabal invasion on Neptune. Beyond that absolutely stupid reasoning, the first mission is both fun and filled with interesting pieces of map design that actually look interesting to stand and stare at. However, after that mission, you meet the one, the only, Nimbus. And what's the first thing they say to us?
So let's go do some hero stuff.
The hero stuff that Nimbus is talking about is a direct attack on Callus's flagship in order to destroy the radio mast. During this mission, we're introduced to a load of questions like, what is the radio mast? What is the witness planning? And so on. Only, we're told that although they aren't great questions, we'll answer them later, which is ironic seeing as none of them are answered, ever. However, this mission does have a cool escape scene with it, where Keitel is brought into the picture, saving us from death as Callus nearly had us in his grasp. And as a Halo fan, this is the part of the mission that I couldn't stop smiling about. That being said, after that mission is where things start to go haywire in the narrative department. We're sent to stop the Vex from siphoning power from the CyberArk, which is basically VR chat for the entire city of Neomuna. The reason we're given for this is that the CyberArk is directly linked to the Veil, the thing the Witness is after. But truthfully, this mission feels like it could have been made into a side mission or left out entirely. Because after this mission, we get a cutscene of Osiris and Nimbus becoming hippies, even including a stereotypical "we are the river" scene where they talk about going with the flow. Honestly, it was just bad and didn't really feel like it was a cool way to explain what Strand is. And the explanation is that Strand is basically the Force. The remaining missions, before you get to the final mission, are basically
Go get Strand!
only you can't get Strand. You're forced to go through a training montage that is absolutely useless, and then forced to watch Rohan sacrifice himself to destroy the radial mast, which we still don't know what it would do if he didn't destroy it. So, cool. With that being said, for the sake of not wasting your time like this campaign wastes the player's time, I am skipping to the final mission for the review. And for the most part, this mission was very good. It started off with a final stand fight with Keitel and her forces, and I'll admit, although it did go on for a bit long, it was fun enough to not matter. The same goes for the final boss fight. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, although Phase 2 did seem kinda weak. That being said, I think the biggest issue comes in with the final cutscene, where basically all the work we did meant nothing. The Witness still randomly took control of our ghost and completed the link with the Veil, which, for a reminder, we know nothing about. From there, the Witness opens up a triangle into the Traveler, pulling a bunch of pyramids into the triangle, which is a portal, before walking through it himself. Now the kicker is, this apparently means we lost. Why? We still have our light and darkness powers, the Traveler's still there, humanity is still alive, same with the citizens of Neomuna, nothing fucking changed. This one fact makes the ending of Lightfall mean nothing, and to me, when the ending of Lightfall means nothing, the campaign means nothing. Over the seasons, we'll be supposedly learning more, but I don't think that justifies an entire expansion explaining basically nothing. Especially when you remember that if it is explained in the seasonal storylines, at the end of the year, all of that explanation will be put into the DCV and never be seen again. That being said, the story is not the main part for a lot of people. A lot of people care about the gameplay, so let's hop into that. starting off with the world that is introduced, or location, Neomuna. Now, the entire story does take place on this planet, and it's supposed to be a super futuristic, humanity built city where humanity was left without the distraction of the darkness versus light war. However, personally, I don't feel super connected to the land. There are some cool scenes in the city, such as a Cloud Strider mural on the main path into the city center, the Shadow Legion flagship, and mostly the Hall of Heroes. But besides these locations, it feels like a normal city, but with a bit more lights. The only thing that feels slightly futuristic on its own about the city is that the citizens are in the cyberark. Their bodies are unconscious within the city in what I can only describe as like a stasis tube, but they're just chilling out in the virtual world while we're out here in the real one doing stuff. My only question with that is, why are they made to just be holograms? Imagine in the cutscene where Zavala is fighting to defend the last city from the Fallen, every single one of those civilians that is seen in that cutscene would be a hologram. He would be fighting to defend a hologram. That's how it feels helping Neomuna right now. Although there is a threat of the CyberArk shutting down and the entirety of the population being killed, we don't get to see that. We get to see nothing like that. We're not defending this land where we see civilians walking around like the tower. We're not defending people that are just huddled down in a bunker. No, we see holograms of them. That's it. Within Lightfall as a whole, the story had a few main characters, and I don't know if it was by design, but it feels like they picked the most annoying combinations of personalities and put them into one big pile of shit, with the goal of making you turn off your dialogue. These characters being Osiris, Nimbus, and Rohan. Because believe it or not, the Witness and even Callus, who are main villains of this franchise, barely show up in the campaign, despite a few scenes where they talk to each other and then the final segment of the story. Osiris specifically was the most annoying for me, because we have been dealing with his ass for so long. We get it, he lost his ghost and he wants to prove himself, but man, it has been 2 fucking years since Sagira died, or at least was captured. He needs to either take a fucking seat and stop trying to act like he's still the man, or he needs to take his final leap and prove himself by dying for our guardian to live. This did not happen in Lightfall. Instead, we got 6 hours of story where we're just getting yelled at by this useless, decrepit fuck to hurry up and figure out Strand. Nimbus and Rohan, however, are annoying for different reasons than each other. I liked Rohan. He seemed grounded and experienced, while still giving off a level of humanity with his actions. That being said, we only knew him for like 3 hours total, and we were expected to care when he sacrificed himself to blow up something that we didn't even know what it was. However, Nimbus is easily the worst character this game has had in years. They're the rookie Cloud Strider, happy-go-lucky, carefree, and seemingly unfucking bothered by their mentor dying until the final mission in the post-campaign story. Which is just fucking terrible, because after that final mission, we don't even see them anymore besides being a vendor on Neomuna. So instead, we hear their loud, annoying jokes again, and again, and again. I cannot overstate how much I fucking hate Nimbus. It is like taking all of Marvel's humor, putting it into a single character, and then tossing that character into the most serious moment in this game's timeline. I mean, seriously, in the final cutscene, the fucking idiot that Nimbus is tries to fist bump Keitel about how ugly her dead father is, which, for a reminder, we killed him maybe a minute before that cutscene. So his body is still fucking warm, and yet he's trying to fist bump her about how ugly he is. How is that even... How did that make it through the writing process? There are a few side characters, but they get as much screen time and importance to the story during this actual campaign as the chicken from Year 1 gets, which is basically nothing. Luckily, Bungie did bring a few good activities alongside the expansion itself that are not reliant on the season. For example, I think the new strike is phenomenal. I cannot wait to play this as a GM. They also have the terminal activity on Neomuna, or the partition hard reset mission, where you're basically playing Sparrow Racing League. So on the activity front, we're good for now. Strand is fun, but I don't think it's nearly as creative as Bungie wanted it to be. Titan Strand feels like a better Striker still, which is cool, but still just Striker Titan made playable in the endgame content. Overall, I do want more super options, and possibly some different melee options, at least for Titan, since I think that is really all I have good enough playtime with to speak on, and definitely some more aspects. But don't let me sound super negative about this, because although I don't vibe with it 100%, it's still 10 times more fun to play than Stasis was on release. The weapons for the expansion are okay. Most of them have the issue of having really good rolls, but terrible archetypes. The most prevalent example of this is the 600 RPM SMG. I feel like we learned this a while ago. The slower a weapon fires, the worse it feels to fight with it, especially when it comes to SMGs. This is only amplified by the fact that kinetic weapons have 15% more damage just flat out than any sort of stasis or strand weaponry. I do think that should be changed, and it probably will in the future, but for now, anything that isn't a flat-out kinetic weapon just sucks in that slot. However, the armor for this expansion is beautiful. It definitely matches the theme of the action movie hero that they were aiming for. Truly, I think things in this expansion will be looked back on as filler, just something given to us so that they can continue their yearly release schedule. And that kind of makes me sad. I expect that sort of thing from seasons or minor plot lines like Duality or Spire of the Watcher. However, I don't expect that from a yearly release. The story is just bad, the gameplay is alright, and the gear is on the brink of being good, but nothing special just yet. Nothing here really pushes the ball any further, and considering the marketing for this DLC that was amazing, that kinda just sucks. I personally think Lightfall is a 5 out of 10, which to me falls just as average, because although the activities are okay, the loot is passable, and the story is the only reason I really care about yearly expansions compared to seasonal releases. So for the expansion to have such a terrible story, I cannot in good faith give this anything more than a 5 out of 10, and I'll be honest, this is a revised rating, because before I replayed the story, I was going to give it a 4, because my initial impression was that it was so below average that the DLC should be labeled as such. But considering the addition of Strand, and the fact that some of the loot is actually worth getting alongside the raid, which isn't released, I decided to give a little bit more leeway on the rating. Let's hope the raid will bump this rating up to a 6 or maybe even a 7, but I'll let you guys know in the pinned comment after I've beaten the raid. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. Please leave a like if you did, and let me know in the comments what you thought about Lightfall. I have some other stuff coming out in the future, so if you like this style of content, or just like the sound of my voice, make sure you subscribe for future videos. But once again, thank you for your time, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.